Yeah.
Yeah,
Poor guy though, he's still gonna make his 75 million a year
yeah,
for 2 years.
yeah, yeah.
You feel for him.
I'm like, I'm shooting this, I mean, obviously it's really bad season for him. Huh? Oh, they still won. Nice.
Well, that'll give him some confidence. Maybe he'll step into, maybe he'll step up and be this. Ready?
Bushy-tailed.
Call the meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everyone tonight. Thank the police force for being here. Thank you. And we'll go ahead and move on to our second item, which is to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by John. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Move on to item number 3. That's the approval of the consent calendar. That's the minutes from our previous meeting and the payment of bills.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Roy, second by Blake. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. That brings us to item number 4, which is the presentation of property value determination by Chris Auden, Todd County Assessor.
Thanks. Thank you for having me. Gerald asked me to come in tonight and just give an overview of assessment. And we're going to start with property tax as a whole, kind of briefly go through how the whole process works. And then I'll get a little bit more specific on how assessment works and how values are set. And then if it's all right, we'll open it up for a little question and answer. So first screen here, there are 3 main parts to the property tax system. 1 is the assessor's office, 2 is the elected boards or councils, and 3 is the auditor treasurer. Each one of those has a very distinct job. You guys set the levy, decide how much each one of your communities needs. I set the values and the classifications. Both of those numbers independently go to the auditor's office, and from there they become a tax back to the taxpayers. This describes it in a different format. The red is you, the blue is me, the green is the auditor. We're going to get a little deeper into the weeds here. What the auditor does with the number she gets is she creates it's called a tax rate, a property tax rate. And what I do with the value times the classification gives us a tax capacity. Each property can have a different tax capacity depending on use, value, or location. Those 2 things together, again, become your property tax. Assessor, this is my job. Value, classification, not the final tax. Values are determined annually. They're reported to the taxpayers in March. Value changes can be based off of physical characteristics. Did your house change? Did it get older? Did you build something? Did you improve it? Or market conditions. Did interest rates go up? Did supply and demand change? Classification is the other piece of the puzzle, and that's based on your actual use. Again, 2 identical properties may have a different use. One may be a residential homestead, and an exact same building may be used as an insurance business. One would be commercial, the other would be residential homestead, and even though they look the same, they could sell for the same amount, they're going to have a different tax based off of that different use. Elected boards and councils. You're going to determine the final needs of each one of your entities, City of Staples in this case. You determine that annually, and that is reported in what we call a T&T, a Truth and Taxation Statement, in November. I see on your agenda tonight that you're going to discuss the first step of this today. I'm going to back up one, or you already had. Okay, there we go. Auditor treasurer, again, they receive our completed assessment information and the completed levy information, and they use that to generate a tax bill. Go ahead. This is our timeline. I'm moving really fast here, but we start our values based off of sales. Sales are our primary use of, that's how we determine what a different house is worth. We started looking at sales for this assessment, the 2023 assessment, in October of 2021. We ended in 22. That is reported on the second day of the year. We give people notification in March. We have a few meetings in April and June, and now very shortly we'll be sending out notifications of what those sales in 21 and 22 are going to do to their 24 taxes. Overall, long process, 30 months. Value notices. Property information sent to the taxpayer 3 times a year. Once is the value statement sent by my office. 2 is the proposed, which is generated from your levy, and 3 is the actual tax statement. And then I have examples of each one of these coming here. This is actually my property. So you see it's my address on the top there. We have a 2022 value notice for 23 taxes. Residential homestead valued at $223,000, minus the homestead exclusion, shows 206 there in the middle. Can you back up one, Gerald? Yep. When you get this notification in March, it's the only time your assessment can change, is based off of this. We're gonna get a lot of calls here shortly when people get their truth and taxation statements. It's too late. Values have been set. Levies are almost set. You guys are very, very close. At that point, we're just reporting. This is a statement where you can actually make a difference. If there's an issue here, that's the time. Okay. So I received that last one in April of 22. This one I received in November of 22. It showed that same value on the top, $223,000, but this shows what it's going to do for my taxes. Each entity is represented: Todd County, Staple City, and the school district. And then on the bottom, it shows what my taxes were proposed to be this year as of last year. And then one more. This was my final 2023 bill. If you can compare the two side by side, you see that they're very, very close. This one's down just a little bit. That's because either you guys, the county, or the school changed their levies after the TNT. Okay, go ahead. Now we're gonna get a little deeper just into what I do. So that was an overview of the entire process. The main part of my job is estimated market value. Simple definition is the most probable price that a property should bring in a competitive and open market. There are 3 main methods to do. Cost approach, which is basically saying it costs this much to build, it costs this much to buy the land, so your home in this example is worth the 2 combined. The second is the income approach. This is generally used on apartment buildings. If I buy an apartment building, I'm not interested in what the bricks and the mortar cost. I'm interested in how much income I'm gonna make from that parcel. And 3, the most widely accepted method is the sales comparison approach. This is your apples to apples comparison. If your neighbor's house is the same as yours and it sells for $200,000, then yours is probably worth $200,000. There's not 2 houses in this town that are exactly alike. So there's always things that we're doing to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. If you have a deck and I don't, then your value should be that much higher than mine. Just as a very simple example there. So coming into that sales data, sales comparison approach a little deeper, the first way, every year, every house has a value. If a house sells, the county gets notification through what we call an ECRV. It shows the buyer, the seller, the location. You can keep scrolling. The sale price. And then if you keep going a little further, the assessors put in the sale data. So here you'll see just under that blue box, it says that it sold for $89,553. At the time of sale, it was assessed at $63,700. This was one of the sales from last year, and I'm sure you guys all know that there was a huge increase in values last year. This is one example of that scenario. Go to the next one, please.
Okay, now you're gonna challenge me.
Yep, a little bit.
Okay.
What we do after that is we're going to review the sales. So this is a list. There's, I believe, about 53 houses that sold in Staples last year. Now, these are only what we call good sales. These are not relative sales. These are not foreclosure sales. These are open market, listed, appraised. People knew what they were buying, and the people that were selling were not falsely motivated to do so. If you go to the top, Gerald, the column F says net sale price, and column I says what we had it valued at the time. Now, when we're all said and done with the year, now we can go all the way to the bottom, please. Those 54 sales combined, the assessed value was approximately 64% of what they were actually selling for. State law says that we can be between 90 to 105%. We can be 10% too low, or we can be 5% too high, or anywhere in the middle. We do this every year. So last year when I walked away from changing the market value, we were at 93%. When I came back 12 months later, we were at 64. The only thing that changed was time. So in 2023, we had to get back into that 90 to 105 range, which meant increasing values, in this case, approximately 30%. And then you can see my final numbers written there in yellow. And you can also see, you just see south side here, but we do separate into south side residential, north side residential, commercial properties on Highway 10, commercial properties off Highway 10. So we're not just throwing every house, every building into the same bucket. We're trying to segregate markets to what people are purchasing. Okay. So this is a 5-year aggregation of where the city ended up in any given year. This is the entire county, but we're centered on Staples here. You can see line 291 there says Staples apartment, and then commercial, industrial, seasonal rec, off-water, and on-water. This comes straight from the Department of Revenue. So many markets have on-water homes and off-water. In your case, you'll see that they're both exactly the same because there's no difference. In the last 5 years, we've had 204 residential houses that we've used in our sales study. And then if I can just approach here, this is the line we're looking at. You can see we ended at 92% last year, 93 the year before, 95, 94, 93. I point out that number to show how consistent we are at the end. Even though the markets are changing, our assessed level is always very, very close. And then, 90 to 105 is written there. This is a graph of kind of what I was talking about with how the sales have changed. This just shows the cities in Todd County over a 5-year span. Staples is the red line in the middle. So in 2018, the overall value, I'm only talking Warner Road South. I don't do anything in Wadena County. That's a whole different ballgame. We're at about $84 million worth of property value then. We're at about $155 million now over the course of 5 years. Huge change. You can see the only time that we were flat was between 19 and 20. Other than that, it's been a progressive increase and at approximately the same rate as Long Prairie. Little Q&A. These are some questions that I get quite a bit. Why did my taxes increase? Number one reason is your market value probably changed, or your property classification. Are you residential homestead last year and this year non-homestead? That's going to create a change. New construction. Did you do any improvements to your home to increase the value? The last one on that blue column is harder for people to understand. everything is proportionate. It's a pie. If your neighbor's house burns to the ground and they were paying $3,000 in tax this year, they won't be paying it next year, but the city's still gonna get it. So everyone else is gonna pick up a buck or two of what they are no longer paying. So your neighbor's assessment changing can affect yours. The three in the light red are all levy changes. Special assessments in green. The main one that everybody has in Todd County is the solid waste fee. There's a approximately $54 fee you'll see on your tax statement that goes to the transfer station in Burrville. It's garbage. Questions? It was a lot of information in a short amount of time. Happy to answer from the council or.
That one slide you had that said, it had the sales that took place, the good sales that took place, then you came down to the bottom and you came to a percentage.
Yep.
And the one year it was, or the one time it was 64 and you had to get it to 90. Can you just explain that maybe a little bit?
Yeah. So I think Gerald going to work on that. What we're looking at is current sales price divided by current assessment price. So if I have something valued at $200,000 and it sells for $300,000, that's a 64% ratio, meaning that the assessed value is 64% of what the sale price was. And the end game is to make it 90 to 105. If we could scroll up to the top, I'd like to see the top columns, the headers. Okay, so here you'll see the net sale price was $145. At the time of sale, it was assessed at $79.6. You saw that from that first ECRV that I showed, which was approximately 50%. When we got done adjusting the market value, it was 114, which got us to 72. Now 72 by itself is not 90. But we're looking at this entire group in green in this case to say that the average, we use a median, but the median value is 90%. We know we're not gonna get every one of these at 90. There are things that are involved with the sale that we might not know. Maybe grandma went into the nursing home and the kids sold the house and they just wanted to liquidate. Maybe it had sentimental value that can't be represented in a sales certificate that we're not gonna know why you spent an extra $50K on this house. There are situations where maybe it had a finished basement, we didn't know it. We do try to call the buyer or the seller to check terms of sale, make sure that we had interest rates right, we had terms of sale, what was physically located on the parcel at the time of sale. I've been with the county 18 years. Last year were the highest increases I've ever seen. Bar none, nothing even close. Preliminary right now, it's not gonna be anywhere near those values right now. I looked at City of Staples before I came here today and we were at 107%. Now we know we ended at 93% last year, we're at 107 now. So if our sales year ended today, it would show that there was a slight decrease in market value over the past 12 months. A little early yet, I don't have all my data in, but using those numbers, I'd say that we're gonna be pretty flat this year.
So if we had, and we did have a home office,
Yep,
and the office is no longer,
yep, I remember you called, and we had it off at the time. But do you mind if I use your specific?
no, go ahead.
So you have the chiropractic office in part of the house. So in that case, we had one parcel with what we call a split classification. So we said this much of the house is used residential homestead and this much is used commercially. And we apply different tax capacity rates so that each portion is taxed correctly, even though you only receive one bill. It's all on there.
Yeah, but that will be reflected this year then.
So it was reflected already in your specific taxes. But to that point, if you build a new house in '23, I'm gonna assess it in '24, and you're gonna get taxed on it in '25. Again, that comes back to that 30-month time frame. It takes a long time to go from nails and boards to taxes. And vice versa, if you take something away, like in your case, it stopped being a home office. So it took one assessment plus a tax year to make that reflected.
So then you had to equalize the values, because it would have
Yep.
changed
Yep, so,
with the other people that are around us, too. To
Yeah,
give you
so-
your adjusted ratios.
it would have affected the overall level. But when we're looking at $156 million overall, it's a very minute portion. But yeah, you will be paying a little less tax, so unless your levy goes down, we're all gonna pick up a few pennies.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're right with the word equalize. That's exactly what we're doing, is we're not making values equal. We're treating it equal. We're using the same process for every parcel.
In the tax system, why is it that, I mean, in our town, I see it all over, and I look at it every day across the street from my house. It would appear that people are rewarded for allowing their property to become blighted and deteriorated. And when people keep their property up, they get taxed more and more all the time.
That is the downfall of a value-based tax system. You're absolutely right. If you buy a house and you don't touch it for 20 years and it falls in on itself, your taxes will be less. If you buy a house and you keep it up and fix it up, do improvements, you're raising your own taxes in that regard. You're 100% right. That's Minnesota tax law. It's value-based taxes.
Is it, unlike, I have a building, a 40 by 92 building. It's valued at $126,000 this year. I use it for storage.
Yep.
The guy kitty corner from me, his building is probably 10 times larger than my building at least. And it's somewhat dilapidated. He uses his for storage and also a residence. And his is valued at $58,000. I mean, it just doesn't seem, basically same use. Mine looks nice, his not so much. And that's a pretty big discrepancy on the tax bill. And
Sure.
it just, I don't, I understand how it works and I get it all, but it's, it seems like there is no real reward for people to want to have their property look nice. It seems like there's a real reward to want them to have, they're okay with not looking nice.
If you're strictly looking from a tax perspective, you're 100% correct. If quality of life and pride of ownership don't have any part of your personal equation, you're absolutely correct. If your whole game is to lower your tax liability, come see me after the meeting. I mean, the worse you have, the less you'll pay.
Yeah. Well, and I guess it reflects kind of on our town too, It's not about me, I just use me as an
Yep.
example.
Yep.
But it reflects a lot on our town and people's real will to live here or versus somewhere else,
But every community has that dilemma, I believe.
They do to different extents. There's, unfortunately, I say unfortunately, but the tax system isn't the place where I know how to change that. Now, I don't know if there's different grants that the city can apply for to supplement that. But coming right back to the beginning of the conversation, if they change that and use a grant to improve their building, I'll be there shortly.
I think the other component that comes into that is resale value.
value.
Yeah.
People that do maintain their properties, when they decide that they're done, obviously have a saleable asset that
But-
the other guy doesn't. But
Yeah, across the street, if you got, a blighted property, it reflects on what you can get for your property.
It certainly can.
realistically.
We have kind of a 10,000-foot view of this as compared to what a fee appraiser is going to have. But a fee appraiser is going to go and cherry pick 3 to 5 different places, maybe real close, maybe something in a different community that looks very similar. We don't have any skin in the game. I get paid the same either way. You guys get the same levy amount either way. If I drop the assessment by 50%, you'll still get the levy. The auditor will double the tax rate, and you'll still get your levy. And that's one of the big confusions with assessment is we hear a lot, you raise my taxes, or you raise my value so you could make more money. I don't set the levy, and no one on the council asked me what it would be when you guys set your levy. I think that's one of the things that kind of keeps it a bit pure. We work independently. What I do doesn't affect your needs, and your needs aren't based off of what people are paying. They're simply based off of what you see needs as a community. And if you want to drop the levy, it has zero effect on my assessment either. It might have an effect on the services you provide or the money you save in the bank, but the assessed level is not going to change.
Chris, can you talk a little bit about commercial industrial and, we talked about kind of equalizing, but,
Yep.
we set a dollar amount for a levy. We've seen residential market values go up substantially. What's been happening with commercial and how does that impact?
Commercial is a much harder beast to slay in a small town. If we get a half a dozen commercial sales in a year, that would be amazing. And the sales that we do get, we often can't use. One of the most common examples, especially here, is a bar sale. So you get a bar sale, as an example, they might buy the bar for $200,000, but it always includes tables, chairs, inventory, kegs, beer, pool tables. We can't use that because there's so much personal property involved with it. We don't know how much they paid for bricks and mortar, how much they paid for disposable items that are just listed as part of the sale price, and how much of it is future income promises. Not promises, but you don't go into many commercial sales without knowing what your potential income stream is. So that can certainly have an effect. There you go. So here's our 5 years history that we showed earlier. The highlighted column here shows that over the course of 5 years, we've had 8 commercial industrial sales in town. Of those 8, our ratio looks pretty good. We're at 96%. 2 years ago, we had 3 sales and we were a little bit high. So overall, 93%, 91%, 109%. Not bad, but very, very limited data. Commercial industrial pays roughly double what the same value would pay as a residential homestead. They also pay what is referred to as the state general tax. That goes directly to St. Paul. It's the only part of your property tax that leaves your communities. Every other part goes to either the county, the city or township, or the school. In return, commercial doesn't pay towards bonding referendums for the school. So they pay the state general tax, but not something that they can't vote on, which kind of makes sense. Roughly answer your question?
Any other questions?
If you have a commercial property and then put a little apartment in there to live, how does that
So-
get taxed?
Apartments are taxed a little bit higher than residential, but less than commercial. There are, I believe, I know it's between 50 to 55 different classifications of property in Minnesota. It's a ridiculous amount. I think it's 53, don't quote me exactly. But we have everything apartment. The lowest class would be agricultural homestead. They pay the least. And then any of your commercial properties will pay the most, utilities specifically. So like Minnesota Power, pipeline companies, they pay on their assets. The railroad pays on their assets. And they have the higher rates at about 2%. Residential homestead is 1% minus an exclusion. So middle of the road.
Bear Ground Railroad, how is that calculated?
Bear Ground Railroad is assessed in-house in Todd County locally. The other portions of the railroad are assessed by the state. So the track, the switches, any of that stuff, the state assess. I believe there's approximately $8 million within the town of value. And we assess the Bear Ground at, this year, it's $5,000 of value per acre.
Any other questions? If not,
All right,
thank you very much.
appreciate it.
Very helpful.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to the next item. Discuss the Staples Historical Society support request. I believe Tom Kyer's going to come up and speak.
So I think in your packet, we've got a letter from Tom, and then also just a sheet in there in italics, talking about the change that was made back in 2019. City of Staples provided support for the Historical Society for a lot of years, up to, I believe, 2009, when it was discovered that we couldn't legally. When Tom approached me, well, it was probably close to a year ago now about this, and we actually checked to see if anything had changed in that statute, and indeed it had. So we can, if the council chooses to. I brought it up, I think it was during our budget work session, that I had been approached by Tom and the Historical Society, and it was mentioned we should have Tom come to a council meeting and explain a little bit more about their request.
Okay. I guess with that, are there any questions? I'm president of the Historical Society, and behind me here is Sally Gorton, who's vice president, and Jim Vollegraf, who's another board member. We are especially experiencing increased costs. You might be surprised to know that our annual lease agreement with the railroad is $3,757. And the insurance is really killing us for $4,930. That's an annual payment for insurance. We have to insure the depot according to the agreement with the railroad, and we insure it for $1 million replacement costs. So it's a very expensive item. But we're asking if the city would be willing to make an annual allotment of $2,000 in support of our activities and so forth. I guess with that, I'd ask if there's any questions.
Have you attempted to create some kind of retail space in that or anything, rent it out to get some income to, somebody or something to use it, as an income property rather than just let it, have it sitting there waiting for Amtrak to stop? I mean, $3,000 from the railroad doesn't sound like a lot of money for having 365 days availability for people to come and get warm, or, you know, have you tried to get somebody to, sure. Have you tried to get anybody to go in there and rent retail space in there to?
We have, and in fact, the chamber was in there for a while. And
Right.
they moved out, and of course now they don't have, you know, the situation there.
Yeah,
But we have at different times had inquiries. At one point, the railroad itself was interested in establishing an office up there for the crews that were in Burtville. But now they've gone ahead and built a building.
right.
But other than that, we haven't had any real positive indications in that way. We do have one room, which used to be the ticket office, which would be available if someone wanted to put an office in.
Right. Okay.
Just a point of clarification, Tom, the numbers that you were talking about, the 3757, is what the Historical Society pays BNSF for the land lease, is that correct?
Right.
Oh, right.
We
Not
own the
what
depot,
Amtrak.
we do not own the land under
Yep.
the railroad, won't part with land because, well, you know why. But, yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure.
So does Burlington Northern pay anything for the people that, does Burlington Northern pay you anything for the people that come and stand in there and warm up or wait for a train
Not
or?
Burlington Northern, Amtrak. Amtrak pays a monthly payment around $700 some dollars. But that, when you add up our costs, why during the winter particularly, we're losing money every month. Right now, we're gaining a little bit because, you know, we're not heating and we're turning off the air conditioning. But it's only a couple of months that we're actually seeing in the black. Most months we're in the red. Even though we are one of the smaller stations for Amtrak, Amtrak this is the latest figure we have, I think, for 2 years ago, $483,000 worth of tickets that came out of Staples Station for Amtrak. So that amounts to about 5,500 passengers if you count getting on the train and getting off the train. So that's about the turnover we're seeing every year.
Is that $700 that you get, is that per year or for a month?
No, much.
Okay.
When's the last time that was negotiated?
We tried and, I don't know if we want to get into that, but
I'm just wondering, based on the money that they seem to make off of it, it seems like a small amount.
we tried to get them to increase the amount, and their reaction was that we're paying too much for the lease. And that lease was negotiated with the help of the city way back when. And I think it had something to do with the fact that the highway went through then, and there was assessments for the, for that long parking area. I don't know, 1,000 feet or whatever it is, but anyway, that's another whole story.
If I understand, BNSF passes that annual assessment amount directly on, back to the Historical Society. So I think that's why the lease is, the land lease payment is what it is because it includes, and I don't know the dollar amount of the assessment versus the land lease, but,
It gets passed on.
yeah.
Yeah. Were you looking for action tonight, or?
Well, I guess guidance maybe would be a better term. The preliminary budget, we do have $2,000 in there. And if the council decides, that, no, you don't want to do it, that gives us direction on what we need to do as far as the budget goes. We've got another request coming up here later on in the agenda for Hilltop Kitchen as well. We're just looking for direction on what stays in or gets put in and what comes out.
Sure.
I think that building and the historical society, and as many people as are in there, I think it's a very valuable dollar to spend out of our budget.
I agree.
Well, I have to go back to when they said it wasn't gonna cost us any. Old fashioned, I guess.
Times change.
Yeah, I know.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
No.
Doug?
I would think that, it'd be kind of interesting, because St. Cloud has a depot that Amtrak stops at, right?
Right.
And what, Fargo, or, they must rent space in all of those depots, right? Amtrak? I'm assuming.
I guess I don't know exactly, but I think we're one of the only ones who own the depot.
Yeah, well, I understand that, but Burlington Northern owns the depot, but the federal government owns Amtrak.
In North Dakota and Montana, you're right.
And,
And I know that we are the only one where it's not manned, that is open 24 hours a day.
yeah. Well, I'd be kind of curious as to what they pay elsewhere for leases at these depots, that, if we're getting shortchanged because we're a small town and they can take advantage of us, or what, the federal government, they basically operate Amtrak, and they, I would think that, I understand the deal, but I think that, talking with Amtrak and trying to negotiate a much larger amount of money, it's warm, it's dry, it's $700 for a place where people can stand while they're trained, while they're waiting to get buses up here. So it just happened just recently, and bus people two different directions out of here. Many hours spent. I would think that that space would be more valuable than $700 a month. I'm not totally against giving some money, but on the other hand, I think that, some of those other sources should be really hardly negotiated to come up with a better settlement or something, on that too. It's better for you guys if you can be self-sufficient too. It's, rather than relying on the taxpayers.
It's negotiated and for that number of years. And so you can talk.
So it's a period of time that you're stuck with that, or what?
I don't know the number of years right offhand, but yeah, it will come up after. I'm not sure what year.
Okay.
Just so everybody is on the same page here, you're saying that there's a long-term lease agreement with Amtrak?
Right.
Okay.
All right. Do you need anything else, Cheryl, from us?
The lease agreement is for the use of the lobby and the restrooms and so forth. That's with Amtrak. The lease for the parking is with Railroad. Annual payment.
Right, I just wanted to make sure
Right.
that everybody was understanding what lease we're talking about.
Okay,
And if, just to make sure that we're on the same page, the Historical Society and Amtrak have a long-term lease.
Right.
That's 700 and,
Right.
whatever. And then, obviously, the Historical Society also has a lease with BNSF for the underlying ground.
Right.
That then includes the special assessments that have been certified on that land.
And that lease with BNSF is a time period as well of some sort.
I'm sorry, what?
The lease with BNSF Railroad, the lease with them is also on a designated time period that will
Right.
expire and then be renegotiated or rediscussed or whatever, correct? Okay,
Still a number of years left.
okay, all right. Thanks, Tom.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on then? Or do-
Yeah, I guess I don't have a complete picture of on what direction we want to go here.
So I
think-
have two that spoke in support.
I'm against.
I guess, I'm kind of a no on a long-term. I would do a 1 year, year by year. I could go there, but
I was
we
thinking yearly as well. You know, if you could do your due diligence between now and next year to see if you can,
get some more
get some
money from
more
Amtrak.
money from them, that'd be, I'd certainly be on board for at least a year.
Okay,
Sounds like
$2,000 for 24.
Sounds like annual.
Okay. Okay.
Do you want that in a motion, or do we have to have a motion, or?
We'll put it in the budget when you adopt the budget.
Yeah, it's already in the budget, I think, so we're just gonna keep it in the budget as stated, but only on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do we, I'm just trying to, so it won't say in the budget annually, will it, or what?
Well,
That it has to be revisited.
It's just a
every year.
one-year budget.
Yeah.
So,
It's gonna
and
be
there's
budgeted for
I've got
next
it,
year.
there's a separate line item in there for Historical Society at $2,000, so,
It would have to be approved on next year's budget, because it'll come up as another line item, so.
yeah.
All right, we'll move on to item number 6. Discuss
That
the
makes
20,
sense, you good with that?
excuse me?
I'm not, I think that in the budget, just putting it in the budget, I could be wrong, I'm not that savvy when it comes to things, but I am a little savvy about how things get just put in there, and after a while, it's like saying hi to your neighbor. I think I would rather have it in a form of a motion, I would think, so that they have to come annually and stand before the council and request it. I think that's where I'm at.
Well, and I'm fine if you guys want to do that. I mean, I look at this the same way I do Hilltop Kitchen and Community Concern for Youth, all of these various things that are in our budget where a request comes annually. But, certainly if you want to make a motion and do it for 2024, that's fine.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Doug, second by Blake, to approve a $2,000 annual,
$2,000.
$2,000,
One time.
what's your motion? Once you say
$2,000 one-time
contribution.
donation to the Staples Historical Society with it revisited annually.
Motion by Doug, second by Blake. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carried. Move on to the next item. Discuss 2023 preliminary budget.
Handed out paper copy of this here. And basically what I've got here is the cover sheet that everybody's familiar with, the general fund revenue and expense and special fund revenue and expense. Largely the same as what we talked about at the budget workshop. The things that we don't know as we sit here tonight that we didn't know when we were at the workshop either are health insurance and labor negotiation outcome. I just wanted to, have the conversation with the council. This is where we're at administratively right now, sitting at about a 2.44% levy. Next council meeting is the preliminary, setting the preliminary budget and levy. Again, between the next council meeting and December, we can go down, we can't go up. So, just want to kind of, just have that conversation with the council. Like I say, we're going to hopefully know more as far as the insurance before our next meeting coming up here in September. No guarantees of that, and we will not know where we're at as far as we won't be, close to settling on any of our labor agreements. So, kind of err on the side of caution a little bit. We can always go down, which we've done over the years. Most of the time.
So what do you have built in for an insurance increase?
25%.
And labor, you have tentatively set it 4? Okay.
All right.
Just information, right?
Excuse me?
Just the information, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any further discussion on that? All right, move on to number 7. Consider approval of resolution 1913, approving lawful gambling for Staples Fire Department Relief Association at the Batcher Block Opera House.
In your packet is a copy of the lawful gambling application form, as well as a copy of the resolution for basically at Frosty's Spirits and Social Club, Batcher Block Opera House.
I'll make a motion for the approval of Resolution 1913.
I'll second that.
Motion by John, second by Doug. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign.
I abstain.
We have 2 abstains. Roy and Blake both abstain.
Any noes? Yeah, Mary was a no.
So motion to carry. Okay. Move on to number 8. Consider approval of resolution 1914, approving donations, Staples Lions Club.
A copy of the resolution is in your packet. Lions Club made a couple of different donations. One for our U.S. flags on the light poles in the boulevards of $500 and $100 towards the flowers that were planted at the community sign, I believe. So recommend approval of resolution 1914.
Are these gambling monies?
Excuse me?
Are these gambling monies?
I'm sure that, yeah, I think that,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll make a motion for the approval of Resolution 1914.
Second.
Motion by John, second by Doug. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I abstain.
Motion carried. Move on to item number 9. Consider request from Knights of Columbus to conduct a raffle on December 29th, 2023 at Sacred Heart Catholic Church.
A copy of the application is in your packet. I believe this is kind of an annual deal at Sacred Heart that the Knights of Columbus do.
I'll make the motion to approve their application for the Knights of Columbus.
I'll second.
Motion by Blake, second by John. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I abstain.
Motion carried. Move on to the next item. Consider the 2024 donation request for the Hilltop Regional Kitchen.
Do we have Wahoo Valley?
Yeah, I didn't see it on the agenda, but it's in our
Here.
packet.
Guess I forgot to make a bullet point. We can,
Let me look at the date on that.
14th?
That's got to go to the state.
Yeah.
Could we add the Knights of Columbus, or excuse me, the Wahoo Valley Deer Hunters Association? We've got it in the packet, but missed it getting on the agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve the Wahoo Valley application.
Do we have to do anything to add it back to the agenda? Do we have to do anything? What?
Go ahead.
Do we have to do anything to add it onto the agenda from an action standpoint from the council? Cheryl?
I think if there's consensus that we put it, that we take
Okay.
action on it.
All right.
We've had
Is there
it.
consensus to putting that on? Doug?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody's all right with it, except for Roy? All right, we'll add that back on the agenda, and so we will consider a request from the Wahoo Valley Area MDHA for a raffle.
I'll second Blake's motion.
All right, got a motion by Blake, a second by John. Is there any discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I abstain.
Motion carried. All right. Now we move on to the 2024 donation request for Hilltop Regional Kitchen.
All right, so in your packet, we did receive a letter from Catherine McAdance, who's the treasurer of Hilltop Regional Kitchen. This is something that I think for probably around the last 4 years or so that we've provided funding for. You can read the letter, but in 2022, Hilltop produced over 121,000 meals. Meals on Wheels, frozen meals to go. They cater at some of the school's Head Start daycares. And basically, they're requesting an amount that was the same as 2023 at $3,024.
So moved.
Is that do they come to Staples and hand them out, or how do they get distributed? And roughly, do you know how many residents in the city of Staples participate or
How many
served
get
by
the,
that?
you mean Meals on Wheels?
Yeah,
There's 23, I believe, 20 maybe that are getting, I deliver Meals on Wheels every once in a while. I think it's about 18 to 20 maybe that get it
in the city.
in the city.
Some go to Motley too,
Yeah, that's right, there's some that go that way.
and that's right out of the community center, so they get meals.
Since we're discussing it, I went there and toured the facility as a mayor. They had I think all you guys were invited, but anyways, we all went and they showed us the facility, and it was a pretty impressive program that they have there. And there are a lot of people that benefit from it. So I think it's a worthwhile endeavor for the city, but.
I'll second the motion.
All right, who made the motion to begin with?
Right in.
Roy. Okay, we got a motion by Roy, second by John. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carried. Move on to item 11. Consider joint power and cost share agreement for Pictometry International Corporation with Todd County.
It's a long description of this. For years, we have put money towards the aerial photography that Todd County, they do the flyover. So if you go on Todd County GIS, we get high resolution photography for Todd County City of Staples, and then also have them do the flyover of the Wadena County portion of that. So basically every 3 years is the schedule to update that. Basically our cost of doing that is at $1,560 per year for 3 years. Something that we use every single day, so I would encourage you to support this.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Roy, second by Mary. Is there any further discussion?
What is our, I see it's $43,100. Is that the total cost?
We're at 1,560.
Okay,
Per year.
Yeah, per year, 3 years.
okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. That brings us to our committee reports. First one is Staples Economic Development Authority.
Hello. Haven't been here for a while. We did not have quorum for a couple months, so we still met for one of those meetings, but we didn't have minutes or anything to report out of any action to be taken. So we are back. Hopefully we will continue to have quorum after the summer months are over now. So there's some outdated stuff here. Well, first, I should go into it. August 22nd, we met. The Economic Alliance, they have a new executive director, Hope Williams. She came out of a few different areas, but her most related experience is she worked in the economic development organization for the city under their director at Perham. And so she went through a few different businesses, but now she is the new executive director of the Economic Alliance that covers all of Wadena County. She came and presented what's been going on over the last year and then asked for their annual donation request, which is something that has happened year after year after year since they were established. And it was approved to do $1,500 out of our EDA's 2024 budget. Way back when we did the Staples Motley Beyond Poverty Cleanup Assistance Program, the EDA, I myself put a lot of time into that. Finally was able to report out official numbers of all the breakdown. You guys have already heard that, so I don't need to go into that in detail. I did share, and you guys may be fully aware of this. I don't recall if it's been reported out at different meetings over the last few months, but we were approved for the full amount of our project request to the ARPA dollars at Wadena County. So we're doing an infrastructure expansion project out in the industrial park to get it better shovel ready in certain areas and be able to easily or more easily attract investment in there. So the total project was $197,802. We were awarded the full $135,250 to do that project. So we have a very minimal share, and we'll get some good work done out there. Spending most of my time on the downtown revitalization Blandon grant between the cohorts that I participate in on a kind of a statewide grantee level, and then subcommittees as well as locally. We have funded a few projects, including a mural, some banners, the planters on Highway 10. Lots of good work is going on. Lots of ideas are in development within the groups, and hoping to see more applications come in. The biggest one being, the most expensive one, I should say, is wayfinding signage that would then, will take additional funding to complete that project, but we do have a consultant working with us on making sure we're doing the best design and quality for the dollar to make sure we're not just throwing something out there that's going to be so visible in such a long-term project. So more to come on that. I should have more details in October, which I don't know if it'll be by the time I present to you or not, but you'll be informed of that as it goes. The banners, the Welcome to Staples banners will be going up here this fall still, hopefully, right? Small cities application that was submitted. Preliminarily, I've heard very positive feedback. It sounds like the official approval will be coming out in the next week or so here. You will be informed of that as soon as we find out. Currently, there's some discussions that are still on the state level, not allowed to be shared out with the public. So more to come on that. So we talked about some housing projects, really nothing new there, just the same progression of what is happening in housing in our community. We talked about the development projects that are going on. The Essentia Health Project has broken ground, which is exciting. The BNSF maintenance building is, coming along. It's almost complete, it appears. And then I just read somewhere, I think in the Cardinal Chronicle or whatever that is, their newsletter, that there is a groundbreaking, I believe this month, for the Nest out at the middle high school, for the new gym with the walking track, et cetera, that Lakewood is participating in. So watch for that too, and try and show our support for when that project does their groundbreaking. Let's see, Safe Routes to School, the new grant, we applied for it before. Still looking at partnering with the school, maybe there's two different programs. I'm still trying to understand it as they've changed everything over the last few years here. Potentially splitting our Safe Routes to School project up, going through some online webinars to kind of learn more about how that funding is going to be processed this year, and whether or not maybe the schools should take on the school portion of it, or at least put in an application that's focused only on the school, and that the city were to take a portion of that and apply to another funding source that is through the same very similar program that would then ideally connect us from the overpass down into the downtown, which we've always talked about as being a dangerous intersection or area, and then potentially developing that the trailhead area that we have designated for that. So digging into those and seeing what we can do. We had our last tour. It was at Precision Metalcraft on August 29th. Thank you to those who have been coming to all these tours. They've been really informative. I think the businesses are really excited that we're all showing up and showing our support for them and learning about them. We may or may not have a tour in September. I'm struggling to get something scheduled, but it does sound like in November and then in January, so we might kind of end up skipping months. But we're actually looking at trying to get into some of the new development as well. So the Lakewood Plaza that's under construction currently, we'd be able to get in there early to kind of get a tour once they want to get some interior stuff up so we can kind of see the actual layout of the space. And then also, I think it was November that the school had offered to tourists through the new gym and the cafeteria and different areas that they've been doing work on over the years. So some exciting tours coming up. Still going to continue to reach out to businesses as well, but these development projects are great. One other thing, you'll be seeing more next month on this, but Wadena County did come out with a new tax abatement policy for their residential properties. This wasn't at this last meeting, but I think you should know. And I can share that out with you at the next meeting, or the next time I present to you. Gonna give you an idea what it is, but it's a much more flexible policy than what they've had in the past. So more to come. Any questions?
The groundbreaking for the nest or the walking track is the 29th
The 29th.
at 1:30.
Thank you. 29th at 1:30. If anybody can make it, that would be great. Show your support.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
Go on to Public Works Commission.
Okay, I only have a couple things for you, but the first one is Bolton and Mink presented their engineering proposal for the 2024 project. When they put this together, we were thinking that we would be on the funding list by now, or we would at least know if we were or weren't. That normally comes out early September. It's been delayed till October as of now. However, with the timing of that, they want to get started early so they can do their staking, get the utilities located, things like that, get all that work done before snow falls, and also that gives them the proper amount of time to have their bid ready for early spring, so we're on the list right away when bids go out. With that, in order for them to get started, they're gonna do about $65,000 worth of work. If they do that work, we could find out in October that we did not get approved for the project. However, that work will be permanent. You know, they will have the record of that. So if we get approved the following year or whenever it is, we have that work done. And also, we can get reimbursed for the work that they do. So if they do the work, we find out in October, we got approved for the project, that work goes on to the project funding, not out of our reserves. So what I'm looking for from the council is action on whether we want to get started on the project and approve the $65,000 of work to be done now, knowing that there's no guarantee that we're going to be approved for funding. Bolton and Mink does think we have a good chance of getting approved for funding, but as I said, there's not a guarantee. And we do have money in the reserves from the water and sewer funds to cover that $65,000.
Is that for the Fourth Street project or which project?
No, that's for the south side and Second Street. So that's the project that'll be, so that, you know, it'll take them several months to do all their engineering work, which they can't do until they do their staking and things like that. So their concern is if we put it off a month and then we put our project out for bids in May instead of April, all the contractors have work. Maybe they're not scrambling for projects, so if they've got work, they got enough, they can raise their price on us, so.
That's a really important project that we're doing back there, and that's on my
Right.
part of town. I really,
Yeah, we've been dealing with,
The PFA pushback on funding announcements is creating a little headache for a lot of communities that have projects that they want to get going on.
And I think the bonus is if we do it and we don't get funded until the next cycle, we don't have to redo it.
Right.
It's done, it's there and it's done permanently. And then we can move forward.
correct, yep, we will always have that. And we have the option of getting, if it comes back later, we can get reimbursed for that work.
I'll move the approval of that project at the $65,000 as presented, yeah.
motion by Mary and second by Roy to go ahead and,
Yeah, and the $65,000 is a estimated
yeah.
amount, yep.
is there any more discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, thank you for that. The Minnesota Municipal Utilities Association is gonna be holding a meeting on October 3rd. They're calling Interacting on the Issues. It's kind of a regional meeting. This is something new that they're doing. I think this could be, it's meant to engage council members they're bringing their government relations team, and the purpose is to talk about some of the issues that are affecting cities and utilities and kind of, like how they're dealing with some of the things that are happening in St. Paul that come back and affect MMUA and, cities like us. They tend to focus on the utility side of things, but nonetheless, I think, there's not a lot of meetings like this for council members to attend, so I think this one could be interesting, and it's happening on October 3rd in Detroit Lakes from 5:30 to 7:30. If anybody is interested in attending, send me a message or let me know, and I will, arrange carpools or whatever we need to do. And I do have to RSVP so they know how many to expect.
What is the times on that during the day?
5:30 to 7:30.
I'll go.
Okay, great. And they've had two meetings in other parts of the state and have been very well received. I said I only had two things, but I actually have three things. A reminder of the open house on Thursday for the projects. That's all I got.
All right, thanks, Scott.
And that's at 6, the open house, 6 to 7?
What's that one? I'm sorry, I must have missed that.
The open house, Bolton and Mink and myself will be here for the open house on the projects.
Will they have drawings and stuff? Yeah. And stuff there, yeah. All right, that brings us to open forum. Is there anybody in attendance that'd like to speak at open forum? We'll move on to city administrator's report.
Just a few items. Been spending quite a bit of time working on community operations. So far, we've met with LELS, which is our police group, and also IDW, and kind of the initial meeting, exchange of data, other information. So, been doing fair amount of research where things are at with all those types of positions in the area. Last week, Sourcewell held a open meeting law training. Ron and Mary attended that, as well as myself. I think, Ron, do we have a clean copy? You said you had a clean copy.
Yes, I do. I do. It's at my house. I'll bring it in.
They're also going to do it again
April 4th in Cross Lake.
So if anybody's interested in the timeline of the one last week didn't work out. It was basically a two-part. First half, probably an hour and a half, was open meeting law. Second half was more data practice type stuff. I think from a council perspective, the open meeting law part is more applicable than the data piece. So it wouldn't even have to, you have to be a half a day if you are interested in that. Been communicating with Chris Belzer down in Todd County. They have a draft ordinance related to cannabis, and Wadena County has started to have some discussions at their board meeting, just looking at different versions of different ordinances. But Chris sent me the draft where they're at. It sounds like the county attorney's going to go through it again. One of the questions that she has is whether the Todd County ordinance governs in the city of Staples. I kind of asked that question of Joe, and she's talking to the county attorney. How does that interplay work there? Obviously, we have Pine Grove Park and Power Lake, which clearly Todd County ordinance governs. And part of the reason of this question is Medina County's doing one, Cobb County's doing one, I don't know that they're gonna be identical. But anyway, so I wanna get the final version from them and get an update from Medina County and then pull our group together, so we kind of know what our neighbors are doing, so. Charter Commission, meeting last week, good meeting, basically went over, some information that was provided by the city attorney related to the charter, any conflicts with state statute or clarifications that need to be done. He had a number of items on there, none of which were, major things, but if we were doing a charter amendment, it would be cleanup type stuff, some clarifications, but nothing too major. We will be advertising for 2 new commissioners for the Charter Commission, and I think when we get those, we'll probably put it out there in a couple months, bring back a proposed slate to the council to recommend to the district court judge that actually does the appointment on that. I don't know, Doug, you weren't able to be there. The assumption at this point is that you want to continue? Yeah. Okay. Then we only need 2. So, interestingly, I have a meeting with the Amtrak Government Affairs person tomorrow. If you're interested in going, 10 o'clock. The guy, I can't remember, Derek, his last name's escaping me, but I think that would be a good conversation to have with him. I'm sure he has also nothing to do with leases, but we'll talk. He'll be at my office.
Is that open for any historic society person to come?
Just you.
Just
Yeah, you and Tom if you want.
I will be there.
So, attended briefly the Waukegan County Board meeting this morning. A lot of the counties and larger cities in the state received settlement money or are receiving settlement money from the opioid settlement. And wanted to find out if Waukegan County, if there was some, avenue for the city to get any funding. We'll talk about it at our meeting. A lot of it seems more public health, treatment or prevention type related, but they haven't fully adopted the criteria for the application yet at this point. So I'll keep it posted if there's anything that comes up there. And then lastly, anybody who's driven down Wisconsin Avenue knows that 202, the house that we acquired here early this summer, late spring, the house and garage are gone. It's beautiful, wide open, went down, want to go this year. So that's all I have, unless there's questions.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Adjourn.